you, Senator, for calling it out. Very powerful remarks and observations. I know we're going to hear more powerful remarks from our next speaker, Jane Lasonder, who's on the International Survivors of Trafficking Advisory Council based in the UK.
A victim, well, I'm not a victim anymore. I was a victim of child sexual exploitation and trafficking for many years. And I went through life thinking, why am I alive? Nobody even sees me. I actually thought I was invisible in plain sight. And I don't want that to happen to anybody else. And that's why I use my story to illustrate other people who are invisible. So today, I know it's long, like a long day, it's the end of the day, but I want everybody to put their phone down because I have a message, not just for you as a collection, as one by one. What I want to talk about today is a message that I want each of you to take into your heart. And I want to take you on a little journey back to my childhood. I want to end with a gift and a challenge to you all. Going back to my childhood, I was trafficked by a gang of men. I was sold for money for a bottle of whiskey. That's what I thought I was worth, one bottle of whiskey. There was other children involved sometimes, and I just felt like I was in hell. And I didn't know who I could go to. People asked me, why didn't you ask for help? One of the people in the gang was a policeman, one was a doctor. So who could I go and trust? I felt so invisible that I remember when I was about 9, I sat on my bed, I looked at my hand, and I thought, well, I can see my hand, but nobody else can. I really, really believed I was invisible. I would be tortured, I would be raped, I would have awful things, I would be locked in a cupboard for days. And I had many injuries, from a fractured skull to broken arm to many injuries, and I was malnourished. And I would go to the hospital many, many times. And I was always told, if you ever speak and tell anyone, we're going to cut you in pieces and put you in a freezer. So how could I ever tell anybody? So I sat there, and one of the traffickers would sit next to me, glaring at me, like saying like this. So I would stare with my eyes at the doctors, begging them to read what I was saying. I was saying help. That's non-verbal communication that some victims who can't speak will give. And not one doctor or nurse even recognized this. This was a missed chance because doctors and nurses are in an amazing, privileged place, actually, to see a huge % of victims of slavery and trafficking. And nobody saw me. At school, when I would go injured and tired and not bringing food and being like completely, sometimes really aggressive, sometimes in a panic, not one teacher asked me, are you okay? I ended up running away when I was 15. I was going to jump in front of a train. The train was coming, and this inner strength shouted at me, no, be there to help other people who are in that dark place. I ended up living on the streets in London. So I didn't get an education. I just lived on the streets. I would drink a lot of alcohol, and I got arrested. And not one policeman said to me, why are you 15 years old without your parents living on the street? And fast forward now today, without an education, I had to really fight because everybody wants a degree or something, and I don't have that. But now I'm in an international council. I'm on the Interparliamentary Task Force. I do some work for Oxford University and research. So my voice is not invisible anymore. People can hear it, and that's what we have to do. We have to listen to people with lived experience, because I know the insides of how a trafficker's mind works. I can share that with each of you if you just ask. I know I have the expertise to know all the non-verbal things that aren't said but are really said in a body language. And I've just written a book with a doctor called Health and Slavery, which has come out internationally, to train doctors, because I realized there's not a proper training in hospitals. And that's one of my recommendations, is we need to give training to healthcare workers. How to spot, what to do, how to report. They are in such a position that they will be able to recognize the suspicious patterns. Somebody comes into the hospital with an injury, who is maybe in a supply chain, in a building site, and had an injury. If they know the right questions to ask, they won't be rescuing one person, they'll be rescuing lots of people, because they'll be able to connect with the police to go and find where this person has been working and find other people. So it is so crucial that we train our medical healthcare workers, because they are also a link in stopping slavery and exploitation in businesses and supply chains, because the people come to the hospital with injuries. So that's another thing. And I want to tell you a story of a guy I know. He's called John. It's a real story. He went in the UK to a hospital. He was forced into slavery in a construction company. He was living in a caravan with 6 other men in a small caravan. It was boiling hot in the summer, freezing cold in the winter. They didn't have much food, no money, and they were beaten. And they didn't have protective clothing. And somebody was making a lot of money from this group of men. And he was terrified he was going to be killed if he ever spoke up. He went to hospital with a broken arm, and he was a very badly broken arm, so he had to go to the hospital. Very many injuries. And he said that when he was there, nobody asked him any questions. He had old injuries. The doctors did an X-ray and said, but you've broken your arm before and it didn't heal properly. And he said, yeah, I also did this at work. And he was very scared, and one of the men from the gang was sitting with him, the same as what happened to me, and was like staring at him as if to say, don't you speak, because something bad's going to happen to you. And not one doctor or nurse looked and thought, well, this man's not dressed properly. He's looking very, very skinny, very underweight. He doesn't look healthy. All these injuries. And this guy said, I was also staring at the doctors like, help, get me out of this situation. They put a plaster on his arm, they mended him. He went back another year before he finally got rescued. And he said, it would have saved me and the other men a whole year of hell, just because somebody would have known how to spot. So that's why we need to do that. And the gift I want to give you is a superpower. You have the superpower to make what is invisible visible. Every one of you has that power. You can change legislations. You can make transparency in supply chains. And you can work with survivors like me. Because many times it's tokenistic. Like, oh, we tick the box, we work with somebody with lived experience. But they don't ask us to co-design, co-create, go through the whole stages. And many times when I work with organizations, they say, oh, we never thought of that. And I'm going, yeah, that's because we're on the inside. Set up a survivor council in this country, in every country. I've just helped write a guide called the National Survivor of Trafficking Advisory Council Guide, to help every country, every government set up a council of survivors, which is a bridge between you and NGOs, and it works because I've seen it work. Start a national referral mechanism, a way to report, train your doctors, and then we can do this together, working in a multidisciplinary way. And I'm going to end with a really stupid story. I'm sorry, but I really have to tell you it. Yesterday, I was walking through Madrid, through the square, and I suddenly heard all these sirens. There was fire brigade coming really fast. There was 2 police cars. 5 policemen jumped out. There was about 4 firemen. And then they started lifting up this ladder very high. And all these people crowded round, and somebody shouted out, there's a rescue. So my heart was pounding. I thought, wow, they're going to rescue a child or rescue somebody. And it went up, everybody was there taking photos, big production. Guess what they were rescuing? On top of a statue, there was a pigeon stock. So they rescued this pigeon with all the sirens and bells. And I just thought, are we doing even this for our children, for our people stuck in slavery? So I wanted to end with that, to remember people are worth more than pigeons. I'm not saying we shouldn't rescue pigeons before I get like animal rights people suing me. I love pigeons. But just remember that. If they can do that for one pigeon, how can we work together to go out and save people stuck in trafficking and slavery?